So I'm gonna again give you guys a little bit of time to work on that. And hopefully if we're focused, at around 12 o'clock we're gonna go over it, about 15 minutes. And then afterwards, we're gonna do the second one, which you're going to see, different parts over here. 1, 2, 3, all these different things. Marty, Sandy, different examples, and you're gonna have to figure out. And if you finish before 12, you can start part 2.
Oh.
The example, which defense mechanism applies to each of these examples, and that may not be as exciting, maybe somewhat interesting. Hopefully, the more interesting one will be, which we may not even get to today, we'll see, maybe we'll start it. We're gonna watch some of these clips, right? Including, well, you can see what they are, okay, some of them you're familiar with. And then you'll tell me, based on that video clip, what defense mechanism is found in that movie, in that TV show, whatever. Fair enough? Mm-hmm. That may be a little bit more entertaining. So I'm going to give you guys about 14 minutes or so. I'm going to try to do part 1. If you finish part 1, go ahead and continue part 2. Yeah. Fair enough?
Fair enough.
Music allowed though?
Well, yeah. No problem. But again, we will regroup at 12 o'clock. So hopefully by that time, try to use this. By the way, this will not necessarily be finished today, but on Thursday we'll definitely be done with it.
Oh.
This will be the last thing I'm going to ask you to submit for this quarter.
Awesome sauce.
We're probably going to be doing something else on Thursday, the halfway part of Thursday's class, but that we'll table it and we'll finish that up after the midterm. This will be due. I'm going to put it also, it's going to be due on Friday. All right? But again, just let that. So my point is, we're going to do it in class. So use your time, so you won't have to worry about it. Does that make sense? Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yes, sir, doctor.
Just spoke clear.
Okay.
All right, so you have 13 minutes, so I'll leave you to it. I'm going to unplug this for the next 12 minutes. Yes, Jane.
Question about the toy this
Age group, but then you would explain how it applies to how it helps the other age groups. Does that make sense? All right, do you have any questions? Let's try to focus.
Exciting. Whatever you feel.
I'll be honest, listen, if there's one or two, you can think of one or two, if you miss one or two, you'll still get full credit. But the idea is to try to do almost all of it. What I'll do right now.
Of course.
Rested.
we'll begin in 2 minutes.
We're only supposed to do the first chart, right?
The
Like,
first
not
part, yeah, part 1, if you finish, you can look at part 2, get a jump start, which I'm gonna be asked, after we go over this, I'm gonna ask you to basically finish part 2, the last 10 minutes of class, 10 minutes of class. And then that's all we're gonna do in part 1 and 2. We'll do part 3 next time. Maybe we'll go into part 3 at the beginning, maybe. That's our schedule.
Is it okay if we don't like, have an example through like any of them? We can just say
Yeah, if you can leave 1 or 2 as an NA.
okay.
You know, if you can't.
And like you won't deduct any points, right?
But not more than 2.
Oh,
You still get 100 if you just miss 2.
Okay, yeah, there are.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I mean, it's great if you can figure out an answer, but if it's just totally made up, there's no need to do that. Yes, Lane?
For sublimation, it doesn't have to be about sexual energy. Like, it could also be like if you're just like angry or something, and like something physical to like get it out. Maybe that
Oh,
helps.
thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Sublimation means use exercise or physical activity as a substitute for sexual
Like, it
energy.
doesn't have to
Yeah.
be
Yeah. I got that.
Yeah. Obviously, bearing in mind this is a PG-13 class.
Of course. We're all over 13.
Try not to use any other types of examples that are beyond PG-13.
Of course.
Okay, time for you to plug back in. Alright. So basically what we're going to do, I don't need for you to read the definitions. I'm going to read the definition, and then I'll see if a couple of you are brave enough to share, your thoughts. I'd like every one of you to at least tell me one answer. Okay?
Of course.
And our class isn't that large that perhaps even everyone should be able to tell me 2. Okay? I'm only going to call about 2 people per each one, otherwise it'll take us the rest of the class. I can't do that. But this part certainly could be light. In a few moments I'm going to ask, how can this defense mechanism relate to you? But let me make sure I have the exact definition, which I have over here. So let's begin with compensation. The definition of compensation is emphasizing personal strengths in one area to shift focus from failure in another area. Which 2 people are brave enough to give an example? Go ahead.
So for example, like I can't think of something specific, but if I've had situations where I'm doing better in one like class or subject than the other, I'll try to apply what I know is working for me in that given subject into the more boost my morale.
Yep, that's a form of compensation.
So if I do well in math, but I don't do so, like I can compensate and kind of, like to my parents, that's what I tell them. I'd say it's okay because I'm doing well in this class, but not as well as this.
Actually,
Okay.
You did?
All right, good.
Wow.
So that's
Kind of crazy.
And I probably should have provided a more broad definition of what I'm asking for. It was fine what you guys did, it's perfect. But this doesn't have to be all school related. Okay, it could be just in general about how you are able to focus on one thing over the other. Right? So, and that's again the idea is of a defense mechanism is if you're not so good at something, instead of spending your time focused on that, you spend more time on the other thing. Adam?
I don't know if it's me, but
Okay,
I
go ahead.
can do it with food, like maybe you'll think if I eat this amount of vegetables, I have junk food and it's okay.
Okay.
Eating
Yeah,
disorders.
I mean, that's another, these are all defense mechanisms, so this is a way of, like, rationalizing. Okay, good. Denial. Okay, so let's try to get to 2, and I'm reminding myself of who spoke. Of course, I'm happy for some of the regulars to share a lot of their thoughts, but I am going to be calling on others as well. So if you know one that you would like to share, I suggest that you volunteer when... Okay, go ahead.
So like, if I were to get like a bad grade on a test, maybe, if there's like, I would like try to rationalize like why I got the bad grade. Maybe it's not my fault, or things like that. So like, so that I'm not upset with the bad grade.
Okay, good. Good. I'm looking around to see people who have their hand raised who haven't called yet. Yes, Zach, go
Like to
ahead.
add on to what Jonah said, like when I'm talking with my mom and she like will bring up like a grade or something, I'll try and think, but I also got like this grade in another class. Oh wait, no, that's competency.
That may be more uncomfortable. Again, a lot of it
I
could
I
overlap.
could try to say like I could like think, like when I got a better grade in that class rather than talking with my mom and saying how I like got a failing grade in the same class.
Okay, okay. Good. All right, Lena, go ahead. We're going to try to limit to, let's say, 3.
So, the camp I've been going to for like the past like 14 years, one random night I got an email that it closed.
Oh.
And I was very, very shocked, and I was in denial because like I couldn't believe like that was my reality. And I kept like trying to make like solutions in my head, like, oh maybe it'll
But it
open
just
again, or like
didn't work.
maybe like I could go to a camp that's just like it, but like it's completely closed, and I didn't go there. I didn't go back.
Hey, we're sorry to hear that.
These are good examples.
My honest opinion.
So, I don't want to spend the whole time doing this, but one of the things that we, as in the field of education, we often find is that a parent, if there's something wrong with their child, and it's not nice to say it that way, wrong, but if there's, let's say for example, this child can benefit from extra services because your child maybe have special needs, and it could be very severe or not so severe. It's very, very painful for a parent to see that their child is like that. So sometimes they're not going to provide the necessary services for their child, even though that's what's best for them, because they're in denial. They don't want to accept the fact that there's something wrong with their child. All right? That's another idea. Displacement. Taking out one's anger or frustration on a person or object that is not the cause of the offense. Yes, Katie.
Like if I get mad at home or something,
Oh,
I
you know
don't
how
want
it be.
to mean to anyone else, so like I'll just like go up to my room and like usually like I don't know, I'll just like find something to like a stress ball or something to like squeeze or like get a rip or like squeeze.
That's a positive form of displacement. Very good. Yes, Rebecca, go ahead.
It's like that I can
So
take
mad
all
about
of
it.
it sometimes. Whenever I lose
Friendly
something
laugh.
that's like
Hold on, wait one
high
second.
value.
Okay, wait till everyone's ready. Go ahead, sorry, one more
Whenever I
time.
lose something, or like I can't find my food in the fridge or something, like I start blaming everyone, like did you eat this, or like did you take my this, and then
Did you
say
pray
that,
today?
Like I just didn't work hard enough, and like losing the time.
Sometimes, right. Okay, go ahead, Lynn, you want to add something as well?
Sometimes when I'm angry, I like slam the door like really loudly. Thankfully, I haven't broken anything, but like it's just the way like I let my anger out rather than like yelling at someone. I just like that. So
Right, so
I don't
that's
think
a-
I've ever
You're
heard.
displacing your anger. Instead of yelling at a person, you're doing toward a stress ball or something like that.
Yeah.
I want to move on. Yes,
Listen, I feel that.
Go ahead, go ahead. Go ahead,
If I
go
can be
ahead.
honest.
Go ahead, Jamie. We just have a lot here.
So, similar to Katie and Rena, I like to take out like my anger on, let's just say, my notes app, and I write like a whole long,
Let's just say.
ramble. Yeah, I just.
You know how it would be.
Interesting. Interesting. Okay. Yeah, that's another. That's another.
Every day now, like,
People may engage in displacement by, as you said, like writing, or different ways of doing that. Okay. Identification. Associating with people or groups that are of higher status in order to increase your own status.
Oh yeah.
All right.
When I was in school in Israel, I would hang out with the popular kids just so I could also be one of them.
never do
Well
that.
said.
You're beautiful where you are.
Have it.
That's all right. That was really awesome. That's very, very good. And that's a form of identification.
I know you down.
So if I'm in a certain group, so people will associate myself like them. So if I surround myself with those types of people, then it like elevates me above who I really am. Which, okay, that's a good answer. Anyone else have a thought on that? Okay, let's move on. That was very well said, Ariel. That's a great example.
You're a motive.
Sometimes,
Oh.
I don't want to, sometimes you find this also when it comes to people as far as attractiveness, right? So if you want to associate yourself, so you're saying like popularity, so if you want to appear possibly attractive, you may want to be around other people who are attractive. So it's the same idea. You want to be viewed as successful, so you hang out with people who are also successful. So it's like, oh wow, this person, you're friends with this person who's so successful, you must also be successful too.
Yeah.
Okay, which may not be the case. Okay, that's identification. Intellectualization, that's a big
It's a
one.
big one.
I got it though, I think.
Sorry.
Describing painful or emotional personal events in academic or philosophical terms.
The duality of the depression.
That's a challenging one. Anyone do that one? Go ahead, Lane.
Normally, if I talk about like a loss or something, I don't say like I'm sad or something or like I'm very upset. I say like it was a tough time for my family. So I think that's more like technical terms because it's not like very specific.
Okay. Okay.
Maybe like when you're writing the essay in school, like you just like, like better
Okay. Yeah, so sometimes, perhaps, the people who are the best writers are people who aren't just writing, but they pour their emotions into whatever they're writing about.
Yeah.
So if they are angry or frustrated, or whatever emotions that they feel, by them putting it into their work, into their art, into their craft, that makes it more real, it makes it more powerful. Projections. So you hear that? It sounds like you're projecting.
Oh,
people
casting.
say. Casting the feelings you have onto another person. Blaming another person for the feelings that you have. You're projecting. Anyone who hasn't gone yet wish to share? Anyone who hasn't gone yet wish to share?
But I like,
Go ahead, Rebecca.
I don't do this, like I kind of like, not taking it out,
Do
but
this.
I try not to do this.
It's
Like,
fine.
because I don't like it when people say like, you made me mad, you did this and it made me mad. Because you're the one in charge of your own feelings. You decide if you want to react by being mad or not.
Okay.
Or when someone says like, because of you now I'm yelling at you.
Oh,
Good.
been there, done that.
Good. Yes, Lord.
Sorry, so I related this one to the, forgot the name, the displacement one because I kind of didn't see much of a difference. Like if might have a problem with someone sometimes, and it puts me in a bad mood, that might bounce off onto someone else. Like if so I kind of put those two like hand in hand.
Like hand in hand.
Very, very often, this is explained in depth in the Talmud, that we're very much like it doesn't say a mirror, it says like a reflection on the water. When you look down, you get the reflection back, which is exactly what you're putting out into the world, is what comes back, which is the same thing as, I guess you can say, you look into a mirror and your image comes right back at you. So very often, the way that you feel and the way you project to others is often what happens back to you sometimes. The idea behind this is, again, that because I'm angry, it must be you're angry. Because I'm sad, it must mean you're sad. Which goes back to, what was that big word that you mentioned, Mikey, with your project, that your project is able to address?
What?
Something along
Oh yeah, egocentrisms and
Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
So but that's the
egocentrism,
idea.
I
If
think.
this is how I
based on
feel,
what Jonah was saying.
it must be how everyone else feels.
Yeah,
But that's obviously,
that's true.
that's
Nah, I'm kidding.
not realistic. But that's what sometimes may happen. So the way that I feel must be the way you feel. Right? Sometimes it's true. Sometimes, again, if I feel a certain way, it's possible that a lot of other people you also have a similar feeling. But sometimes you're just projecting. So don't, and this goes back to what Rebecca said, just because you feel a particular way, that doesn't mean that I have to feel that way. Right? You don't have to be that way. Okay, so let's move on. Rationalization. That's another big one. Making logical excuses for illogical behavior. Rationalize.
Yeah.
What would be the example of rationalization?
It's like when you're
Perhaps
deluded.
someone who hasn't gone yet or so often. I'm trying to nudge people without calling them out. Ariel.
Not me, but I heard it like on TV or from a friend. I don't know.
Okay, go
They
ahead.
would rationalize cheating on a test, saying that because the teacher didn't really teach it that well.
Okay.
That's so true. Wait, he's right.
That's a good answer. How about what's going on in a lot of stores? When you go into the store, everything's in glass. What?
Oh my god, let me do
I was gonna say that last year in personal finance, we discussed that
Yeah.
some certain like stores they put sales.
Some
but they're
certain
not really
stores?
sales, like get people to like feel better about themselves and like rationalize their spending.
No, okay. That's what I was gonna say, but Zach, go ahead.
They would like steal because it's like so much money for like.
Yeah, very good, Zach. So he's basically saying, I'm allowed to go and steal because all these companies, they're all rich anyway. They all have insurance anyway. Plus, it's not fair the way that I've been mistreated.
Yeah. That's how I feel.
It's not fair that I'm poor. So why do you get to have stuff and I don't have stuff? So that's rationalization, right? It's illogical because what do you mean? You're still stealing, but a person doesn't want to believe, and here's an important core concept of what we're talking about. You don't want to believe you're an evil human being. Even if you are an evil human being. If you're a rotten, horrible, evil person, you don't want to feel that, you don't want to think you're an evil, rotten, horrible person. I would venture to say that some of the worst people in the world, in the history of the world, they actually didn't feel that they were evil, horrible people. I guarantee you,
Why?
very well, Jamie, right on, exactly. I guarantee if you would talk to him, he would not only not think that he's an evil dictator or a terrible person, I'm sure he would probably say why his country is the best country in the world.
It is,
and
it
that
is.
he is the best leader.
You ain't
He's the best supreme leader over any other
North Korea.
any other country in the world. Which to me falls into that category of rationalization. Someone had something to say? Okay, let's move on. Reaction, I'm running out of time here. Reaction formation. Replacing feelings that are socially or personally unacceptable with emotions that are acceptable. So replacing feelings that are unacceptable with emotions that are acceptable. This one's a little bit hard. Anyone attempt this one, Katie?
To me, this is kind of like a fake it so you can get mindset. Like, let's say, okay, so every Sunday I go to like the super schools, like volunteer, and I do doing it because it's like really early in the morning. But I try to convince myself that like it's fun and like, I don't know, I just like convince myself that I like doing it even though I don't.
Okay.
You're showing.
Does it work? Does it work?
Sharon
Sometimes.
Sullivan.
It's like, it's not as bad as it used to be.
Okay. That's a good example. I like that. Anyone else have this one? It's a hard one. Okay, let's move on. Regression. Reverting to childlike behavior to get the attention you got when you were younger or to get your way. Regression. I keep calling it. You get all the class participation points. Go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, people. Oh.
I mean, others do, too.
Oh, no. So should I go?
Yeah, please.
So I personally, I don't like really relate to this one, but I have
Give
seen.
any example. It's not the beginning.
I've seen others like in my life that result to this behavior, but I don't really think it's that successful overall because like I personally don't think it conveys a point. Like if you're acting like a child, no one's you're just gonna make yourself.
Like, what would be an example of an adult acting this way, or an older person acting this way?
Like, I don't know, like, I guess there's a bunch of aspects of childhood. Like, you can act, like, innocent, you can act, just like a baby, but I think the baby part is more like you're not gonna really see that, nor will it be successful from someone who's, like, older. That's
Good.
Yeah.
Yes,
There's
Lane?
a good example of this on YouTube. There's this like girl that like dresses up like a baby and just like acts
Oh,
like
Gypsy
one.
Rose?
Oh.
No, not
I hate
her.
that movie.
There's, I don't know, there's like a
That
video
must be
and
a
like
Gyp.
she gets like extra attention from her boyfriend because she's like,
But what
whining
kind
and she's
of-
like
Oh my
yeah, yeah.
Oh, Mitzi?
I don't know, but
Oh,
there's a
Gypsy
video of it.
Is it
so-
Mitzi Sanderson?
So instead of accepting responsibility for your own actions because you're old enough to be able to know what's right and what's wrong, if you know, let's say for example, you have a parent that coddles you and literally babies you, you can always fall back on that and you'll be able to get away with stuff. Here's the problem. At a certain point, when you're a certain age, it's not going to be accepted anymore. And your boss is not going to accept it. And
Imagine
your
you start crying to
husband
your
or
boss.
wife won't accept it, right? So these are, again, coping mechanisms instead of owning up to what you need to do as an older person. Okay. But again, it's done on different levels. Repression. Unconsciously forgetting information that is too painful to recall. Go ahead, Jane.
Well, I think this is just kind of like PTSD. Like, if there's something that is like really bothering you, then you won't remember like certain like parts of it. And I think it doesn't even have to be like something that happened to you, like physical, but there's just like an interaction that like really is just like hurts you.
Yeah.
I think that it'll be like blocked out, or like even for me, like sometimes when like awkward like situations happen, like I kind of
Oh,
just, like,
rise, I think is
block
the word
out,
looking
like,
for.
because it's just too like awkward and cringy for me to like, so I kind of just like forget about like what it's like.
Right, so that's a form of repressing. We find this as an extreme example are Holocaust survivors. A lot of them fortunately talked about it so that it became public because people to this day deny that ever happened or to the extent. But it's so painful that a lot of people just that went through that experience just don't talk about it. So they just keep it all inside. They bottle up inside. You think that's a healthy thing necessarily?
No, gotta
Not
let it out.
necessarily because
Okay.
you need to share it. Sometimes though it's so painful, it's better to block it out as though it never even happened. Katie, go ahead.
Oh yeah, I think for me this is 8th grade science because so I hated that science class at all.
Okay. I won't tell anyone.
There's like I think there's a lot that like I barely remember anything from that year. Like sometimes if someone like brings up like something that happened in that class, like I might like kind of remember it, but like I don't really remember a lot. I remember what I hated it.
I was gonna put that example.
So true.
Well, okay. I don't want to get into too many details because obviously it's
Too many deets, you know?
some teacher that was there. Okay. And the most difficult one, sublimation using exercise or physical activity as a substitute for sexual energies. So you can just say it straight, right? The way it is. The person who does exercise, that could be a way of getting that form of energy out. PG-13, Mike, go ahead.
Yeah, I know a lot of people who like aren't like in a relationship and have never been in a relationship, and they take it a lot of it out in the gym. They take a lot of it out on the gym and they like work out a ton, and so yeah, that's yeah.
Okay.
That says a lot.
And,
I got the blue door.
okay, thank you. That was a great example, and I appreciate the maturity of the audience.
Of course.
Okay.
Oh, wait.
All right. So with
I'm
that
not the
said,
audience.
let's shift to part 2, the practice. We'll do the first one together, and then I'm gonna ask you to try to plow through the other 10. And we're gonna start off class next time going through 2 through 11, and then we'll continue with part 3. So let's read one together. Let me see who I can maybe call on for this. Marty, a rather insecure young executive, leases a new BMW, fancy car, whenever he and his co-workers go out to lunch. Marty always offers to drive. So, I was expecting that you would raise your hand. Ariel?
Identification.
I think you're right, and why?
It's because like he's insecure
You're insecure.
and he's an executive, so he wants to hang out with the other executives to make himself feel better.
I think that is certainly a correct answer. Maybe another answer.
Could you also say compensation maybe?
Go ahead, why?
Give me some.
Yeah, the answer is yes.
Because,
but why?
well, it says that he's like a insecure young executive, so that could be like he might be failing in parts of his job, so instead he tries to get new cars every day to show that like maybe he has a lot of money. So he
Yes. Very good. So I'm not asking you to justify your answers, but I'd like for you to try to think about it. So for the next few minutes, we have class until I think 12:31 is when the period is. So we have 5 minutes. So try to go through this. It's not going to be due today or on Thursday, but I would like to have you do this so we can immediately go through it. So then we go through these questions, you're not going to be guessing, but you'll already have the answers down. So if you can try to wrap up the last 5 minutes productively, that'd be great. Fair enough, Katie? Jordan, is that all right?
Yeah.
What? TV rides that make these
You have to make a pass. May we make passes with each other, Corey?
So, and yes,
MIT or Howard.
yes, Jonah, there could certainly be more than one correct answer. You know? But don't just write any random answer.
Yeah.
Try to think of why. Okay? All right.
Santa.
And I'm going to unplug. Any questions, Zach? Good? Leah, you're okay over there?
Yeah, I told you to get in. I did.
The whole thing.
All right, well, okay, we're gonna go over this next class anyway, but I'm gonna videos together. Use some of them. All right.
I forgot. Are we gonna go over them?
Yeah. So part 2, we're gonna start class immediately on Thursday, going
Ooh.
to part 2, questions 2 through 11, and then we'll do part 3 of videos. Bear in mind, you have to please make sure that you submit every single one of your assignments so that I can give you a good grade. I want you to get a good. So if you're missing anything, try to get it to me. As, you know, by Sunday. I saw that you submitted a lot of stuff.
But there's like
Moon Day.
Just
Yeah,
as you know
yeah,
that
that's
you
been.
submitted
Bro
it,
did not know
I'm
that.
gonna grade it. All right, I'm gonna go back and I go back all the way from the beginning, double check anything that was submitted. If something was submitted late or I didn't catch something, as long as you know that you did it, that's all you have to worry about. If you miss anything, if you're missing something, I'm gonna remind you again when I look that you're missing something. If you got, by the way, let's say if you got a 0, it's because you didn't do it at all. If you got a 50, I'm not going to, I don't write to you to redo it. If you're not happy with getting a 50, redo it, resubmit it, and then I'll grade it, and you'll get a higher grade.
It's 50.
You're not gonna get 100, but you can certainly get an 80, somewhere in that ballpark.
Is it 50 when you like just don't?
You miss half of the
assignment?
assignment. You just hand in only half. I'll grade it the way it is.
Okay.
Like if you don't submit anything, I just grade it and I just call it a 0. But so now it's late. You can't get 100 if it's 2 weeks late or a month late. But you can get an 80, maybe even a 90. That's really good. It's a lot better than 0. But if you have a couple of zeros, you can't get an A in the class. You can't do it. If I average it out, it just doesn't work. So if you're missing something, please submit. But this is not going to be due until Friday, and also the toy one, the previous one, is not going to be due until Friday. Okay? I'm actually going to put right now, will be the last thing I'm going to do. I'm going to put down the due date for this, just to make sure. I know if you don't have a due date, then what happens? You don't actually, it doesn't pop up on your thing. That's the problem.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to put this also on January 19th. But we're going to be doing this in class.
Can I show you one of the assignments I'm completed?
Please.